as far as I know, you grew up in Canada and then decided to embark on this adventure and this journey abroad to Costa Rica and then to Paraguay. What's the story in a nutshell? You grew up in Canada and then you decided to move abroad. So like why? Like what was your big why of starting this process, I guess?
Well, actually, like I grew up in Lebanon and then my parents brought us to Canada. And Canada's a great country, but I didn't think that it was really my place. It gave me a whole lot of opportunities. And at the time, like I had finished my studies and I was wanting to be a dentist and everybody's best friend.
Yeah, right. Everybody loves a dentist.
Everybody
sure.
loves a dentist. And I was working on that. I was studying and I was working so I can go to dental school.
Why dentist? Like what drew you to that kind of profession? Because I guess it's pretty specific for most people. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I like
teeth or like I don't know.
Yeah, I was fascinated by
right.
teeth. No, actually, I just always wanted to be my own boss. Like ever since I was in school, the one thing that I really wanted to do, because I knew that I was sort of a workaholic, I didn't want to get into business. That was my thought. Now I am in business.
Right.
At the time, I was really strong in sciences and art, and I was really good at one-on-one with people, and I really wanted to do something that had sort of a set schedule where like I'll work in the morning and I'll be done, by 4 or 5, and then I'm off and I can do my own thing. I can be with, have a family and all that, and not be so constricted to working 24/7, because usually whenever I was working in corporate, that's what I was doing. I was just taking my work home with me and just constantly working. I didn't want that. I wanted something that was set schedule and allowed me the freedom, and I wanted to be my own boss. And then I wanted to at some point, have my own clinic and then have other clinics, just grow into that and then work 4 days a week and then maybe at some point like retire and let it sort of run itself. Like that's always the dream, where you want to spend more time with family than you do at work. At least for me it is, and I know for a lot of other people. And unfortunately I couldn't do that. I was working really hard to get there. I had the grades, I had the interviews and everything. I had got into a few schools, but unfortunately when it came time to actually go there, I couldn't get the financial resources to pay for that school. So around that time is a lot of things were going kind of south in my life. So I had to let go of the career dream, or the dream career.
Right.
And I was just ending almost a decade-long relationship with my ex, lovely man, but didn't work out. And I was working at a job that was basically not my career. It was in corporate, not my thing. It was more so what I was doing to make money to be able to get to the next step. And it was quite exhausting. I was overworking and I was pretty much burnt out. So nothing was really going the way I wanted to. So it was time for me to sort of just make a shift, right? And I wanted to start from zero. I had actually on the side, I was taking, I started taking yoga lessons. It makes me laugh because I actually did the yoga training, yoga teacher training, and I never taught yoga. But that was sort of the start for me to sort of do like a mind shift, like to change my worldview, basically. That's sort of where I started to realize that what I was doing, or who I thought I was, wasn't really who I was. And all these things that I was trying to do in life weren't exactly me. So I had to sort of get out of that environment and go elsewhere and figure it out. But at the time I was also starting to get into the idea and the understanding that we weren't here to just work all the time, and just wanted to get out of that whole rat race and go somewhere. And then about a year before, my best friend actually went to Costa Rica. So she
That's
was
how it came to the picture.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking Costa Rica. I was just like, hey, let's go to, I'm in Costa Rica. I'm loving it here. Why don't you, like, you want to change? Why don't you just come to Costa Rica? And I said, I was kind of anxious about it at first. I was resistant to the idea because I had my mind set on the things I wanted to get done. What am I going to go do in Costa Rica? Like,
Right.
what skills am I going to go take there? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I can teach yoga. I had also started learning about holistic nutrition. So I was like, you can always do something there because there was a big community of spiritual people and people who are like health conscious and all these things. So I was like, oh, you can always do something there. But what I really, really wanted was to take a break.
Right.
So
I guess we can kind of say that you always had this image in your mind about the life you wanted when it comes to that independency with your time and not working 24/7 and have a family on the side.
Yeah.
And you had certain things in Canada that you used to build up this life, but then it didn't work out. Then you felt that you need to go abroad to try to rebuild that dream in a different country, or is that something?
It was more or less that. Like, I really just wanted to get out of the funk that I was in there.
Yeah.
It was pretty dark times when everything was sort of falling apart, and I was also trying to figure out who I was at that point, because when you attach your identity to what you do and what you study and in a certain environment, and that all like shatters, your whole identity shatters, or you try to figure out who you are. So it's like, okay, I need a break. I need to step away from where I am. And I know there's this thing they say, you can't heal in the environment that broke you or something like that.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I'll go to a new environment. And I had this great idea of I didn't really have any expectations, but like, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to live a more simple life. It's going to be relaxed. And, I'm just going to heal, right? Heal,
yeah.
Whatever that means.
Sure.
So that was it. And at the time, Costa Rica was actually, a lot of people were going to Costa Rica.
Yeah. It was a very, very, very popular
big
destination.
Yeah. I think this was I want to say 2017, 2018, around that time. When this whole thing kind of started. And at the time, Costa Rica was actually one of the safest countries, or known as the safest countries in Latin America. And I love Latin America. So it only made sense that Costa Rica would be the first place. Yeah. Once it got introduced to me. So I said, okay, great, we'll go there. I have a friend there. We can figure out what to do there, but I just wanted to relax. And, it's safe. A lot of people are there. And I don't know if you believe in this and everything, but there's something about Costa Rica on the map being one of like the really high energetic centers.
Okay.
So I figured it's a nice place to go and heal also. Okay. And you're in the nature. So I was looking forward to that. So finally I decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going to sell all my things, grab my backpack and go and see what happens. So,
and this was at the age of, when was this?
Right before my 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like 29, 8-ish. Okay. Yeah. It's quite a big leap.
Yeah. Well, I had tried everything else. I was working on that dentist thing for like over 10 years, I would like study 1 year, work 1 year, study 1 year, work 1 year, and get all the things I need to get done in order to get there. And it didn't work out. It was not fate.
Right. Yeah. Like life pushed you out of Canada.
Yeah. The funny thing is that like I went there to relax and to heal.
Right.
But because I was so used to doing a lot and being like working and stuff, like the first few months, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I would sit there and I'd be like, what can I do? Like, what do I do with this? Now you're actually forced to sit with yourself and figure your shit out, basically. But I just remember feeling this like a buzz, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what do I do here? I gotta find something to do. And so I started looking for work, not necessarily like a full-time job, but I started with helping people because we were in a small community there too of certain influencers that we knew at the time. And, they needed help with editing or they needed help with their YouTube or whatever. And then from that, I actually started doing property management, like Airbnb management for one of them as well. And that later on, which we could talk about later, ended up with me opening up a hostel. And
Right.
so it was like all these different things. But at the beginning, it was great. And it was just, I had no expectations. That's the thing. It's sort of like, I just know that I don't want to be here. Let me see what's there, kind of thing. So I got there and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And I think sometimes you just sort of have to take the risk. I'm a bit of a risk taker. So it's like, just go and see,
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to your parents.
True.
But yeah, it was really exciting.
Yeah. So I guess it seems like you went there with this specific thing in mind when it comes to like healing and self-reflection.
Yeah.
And
just to transform.
yeah, to leave Canada, but Canada didn't leave you. Like it appears to be so, right? Like I guess we carry on our habits regardless of where we go in the world. Like you can't just like leave it behind. But then at the end, it led you to a new opportunity when it comes to
It did, exactly.
working and business.
And I think that's the thing, because there's like a balance of like, often people say, aside from, okay, you can't heal in the place that broke you, like go elsewhere. It's very important to go somewhere else just to get another environment, especially if you're surrounded by the right people.
Yeah.
Yes, it can help you grow, but also from others people's experience and my own, if you're taking your shit to a new place, you're still with that shit. So like first, change your environment, because it does help, because the people who are there to influence you, the fact that you're away from certain things or certain people or certain habits or certain lifestyle, like you're changing your lifestyle, that's helpful. And you're sort of, if you're away from everything you knew, you have more space to grow into something different, basically. And so that's a good container for expansion, if that makes sense. But at the same time, you have to actually use that in order to change whatever needs to be changed from within. Because if you don't change what needs to be changed from within, then you've done nothing. You're still with that shit.
Okay, so you're saying that leaving the environment is kind of essential for you.
It's like an initiator to the transformation process.
Okay, but do you feel it's like a guarantee? That
it's not a guarantee. That's what I'm saying. You have to do the work.
Right.
It's just a little easier when you detach from everything you've known before. Sometimes, not for everyone, but sometimes it is better to be somewhere else, away from the things that maybe held you down or maybe gave you the bad habits or whatever it is. And you're basically getting to know yourself again somewhere else. I don't know. It gives a little push.
Right. So it kind of enhances your capability to be able to move on when you change your environment, basically.
Yeah, that's how it's been for me. I feel like every time I've gone somewhere, I've transformed in a way or become different. Of course, there's still things that, I still need to work on, and they're still the same as before, but a lot of things changed. And you also get different opportunities that maybe you didn't have before. You meet certain people. Like I've met my mentors. I've had opportunities, like business opportunities, that it maybe wouldn't have had there. And so it's the whole different playing field, basically, that pushes you to grow or pushes you even maybe to look inwards more, because now you have the time, you have the space. There's no distractions, the old distractions. So it is very helpful to get away to do that. But it doesn't do anything if you don't do the work while you're in the new environment. So that makes sense.
What is that work?
Well, basically self-reflection, figuring out what are the things that have held you back, what are your limiting beliefs, how you've held yourself, how I've held myself back by myself with my own reasons, beliefs that I thought that I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, or I wasn't good enough for this or that. Or even the biggest thing for me actually was the way I was living in Canada, which was at the time a lot of people were living, is whatever society teaches you, whatever your family teaches you, whatever the government tells you, whatever your teachers tell you, etc.
You stand in line.
Yeah, and so you have a certain idea of what life is or what you're expecting to, to live, basically. And then when you go elsewhere, and not necessarily, but like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes when you go into a different environment where you see that a certain different lifestyle is possible, it makes you want to push towards that lifestyle.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the clip. The full length of the episode is available right here. So go on, check it out.